recording for the second half of IS50B on week 8, day 2. We'll just do some random topics for today. So this crate here, every time I look at it, I just think what's inside of it. So I'm going to make it breakable real fast. So I'm going to right click, create a destructible mesh, and come up here and fracture it and see what this looks like when you break it. And it looks fine to me. Save. Done. And rather than using U, I'm going to use delete. Rather than using U, there we go. I don't know why the delete key wasn't working. I'm going to use U. Okay, so destructible mesh is real fun to play with, and there, and so we can break it now. The inside looks a little weird, but yeah, whatever. So in IS50A today, we went over kind of making a combat system from scratch. So we got a kind of working game together. I'll give you the whirlwind tour of it, quite literally in this case. In Unreal Engine, there's a lot of different ways you can do damage. There is a damage system built in because damaging things is something that happens a lot. And so you can create an event called event any damage. So anytime you take damage, this event gets called. There's two other types of events as well. One is called event, scroll up, event point damage, and event radial damage. Point damage means you got stabbed or shot at a certain place. And so you can take extra damage if they shot you in the head versus the chest versus the leg. And radial damage gets called if an explosion goes off next to you. But you don't need to worry about that if you use any damage. It just works for any type of damage. Okay? How do you do damage to somebody? Well, here I've got my confetti ball blueprint. It's just a sphere that I slapped my shiny purple texture on, and when it touches something, when the confetti ball touches something, the first thing I do is I check to see if it's the main character, so it doesn't explode on you. Because if you run really fast, you can actually bump into it, and it kind of looks weird when you're shooting and face planting into a rocket launcher. So first thing I do is I check to see if I hit the main character. If I don't, then I do apply radial damage. And so this is a function that how do you make a destructible mesh with explosions? You can just have it, like when the thing explodes, do a emitter. Or if you want to do something more complex than that, you need to make it a blueprint. So we can actually show that in a little second. Let me do the review real fast of IS50A today. So apply radial damage is a function that finds everybody in the area that has a take damage function on it. And it does line of sight blocking, so by default it only hits things that is within line of sight of the explosion, which is nice. It does damage fall off by default, which is nice. You can do full damage if you want to do full damage. And you can pass in the radius, that's how big. This is a 5-meter explosion, and it does 50 damage in a radius, but that falls off. So the further you are away from the center, the less damage you do. So if you're like at the end, it might do a couple points of damage. If you get hit in the face, it does like 49.9 or something like that. So this is a function, and it hunts around within that 5-meter radius. Everybody that has a take damage function on it has the take damage function event callback on it called, except for the people that you pass in with ignore actors. So I'm choosing the player to be ignored, so I don't take damage from my own explosion going off in my face. Obviously you turn that off if you want friendly fire to be on. And then you can pass in the object that is causing the damage. In this case, me. I am the confetti ball right now. And you can pass in the owner so that you can give credit to who gets the kill. And I'm not doing anything with it right now, so by default, if you leave most everything empty, it'll just work fine. You just mostly just need to pass in how much damage you're doing, the point that it's exploding from, and the damage radius, how much damage to do. And then you can leave the rest of this ignored, possibly the ignore actors if you don't want to hurt the player. But these are useful if you like, if you want to know, is it a rocket that exploded or a grenade that exploded? That's useful. That's good. That's good to know. And then who is the owner of that rocket? Is it a teammate? Then ignore the damage. If it's a enemy, then take the damage. So you can pass these in. It's probably good practice too. And then you can choose if you want it to block, like a wall will prevent damage from going through. Okay. I spawn an emitter, and then I do a multi-sphere trace. So this is how you find everybody within a radius of a point. And it's going to ignore myself, of course, the glitter bomb. So it's going to start and end at the explosion point with a radius equal to explosion radius here, just the same thing, 5 meters. And then for each element within this 5 meter radius, we're going to process them. We're going to do something if they're simulating physics. So for everything within 5 meters, if they're simulating physics, then we add a radial impulse. We push them. And that's what's, and then we have some variables here for how big the push radius is and the push strength. So that's what causes these things to shatter like that. So you can factor in, oh, look at that thing. Yeah, so you can apply different amounts of force and stuff like that. That's funny. So when you have a destructible mesh, that physics can cause it to shatter if it's set that way. So the where is it? Great. Yeah, let's move this over to the build directory here, so I can find it more easily. Okay, so when you go back into the destructible mesh, you can see there's an option here for impact damage and things like that. So, like if somebody runs into it, but basically that physics pushing will do it. Okay, or the damage, actually, the radial damage will do it. Okay, so so then on the flip side, when you want to take damage, you have an event called event radial damage. So over here, this is going to cause damage. It's like one causes the damage to everybody within a radius, and then everybody in the radius that could take damage has this function, has this callback called on it here, called event radial damage. If you don't have event radial damage, then it'll call event any damage. Either one would work here. And so the goblins reduce their health based on the amount of damage taken. So our current health minus the damage taken is our new health. If our new health is less than 0, we're dead. So we play the death scream at the location of I point. I point is a point that I just put onto the thing here. This is a scene component, and I just dragged it onto the blueprint so that I can mark where the eyeball of the goblin is. And so that's going to scream. So it's going to play the goblin death sound, and then it removes itself. And so that's how you take damage, and that's how you inflict radial damage. Now, on the other side, the goblins are going to be stabbing us. They're goblin rogues. They do a d4 dagger damage and a d6 sneak attack. So the goblins, where is it? Players within 2 meters of us. Here, okay. So if the distance to the player is less than melee range is set to 3 meters. So if the player is within 3 meters of the goblin, then it will just call apply damage. Notice this isn't radial damage. It's just a flat damage. Just lower your health by 10. Right? Radial damage will do damage fall off and line tracing to make sure that it doesn't hurt people behind walls and stuff like that. Apply damage is just like if you're within 3 meters, you're going to take damage. And so there's a downside to this, which is that if the player is hiding behind a wall, the goblin can actually shank them through the wall. So you want to make sure that this melee range is actually pretty small, so that you can't have intervening terrain, blocking it. 3 meters is going to be, yeah, they could potentially stab you through a chair or something. Okay, so for apply damage, you pass in the person to take damage, in this case the player. How much damage? I randomly roll a number from 1 to 4, because this is a dagger. And I add to it a random number from 1 to 6, because they are a first level rogue, they do sneak attack. And then the sum of that gets added together and passed to base damage. So base damage will hold a number from 2 to 12. The damage causer is ourself, so that if we cared, which we don't, but if we cared, we could see who caused the damage. Oh, it's a goblin damaging us. Well, currently we have drunk a potion of protection from goblins, and so, I take half damage or something. So we could use these things if we wanted to. Currently we're not. So you can just leave the rest of this as it is. And then there is this damage class thing here, where you can set up different types of damage. If you've ever played, what was the O for, Aaron? You can set up different types of damage. So you can have fire damage, lightning damage, cold damage, acid damage, piercing, bludgeoning, slashing, just in case you want to handle them separately. I don't. I just am doing generic damage. But yeah, like if you have fire resistance, then, you could set up a damage type for fire, and then take less damage from fire or no damage from fire, depending on how you do it. Currently, I am doing absolutely nothing with that either, so the damage type is not used at all here. So the goblin side of things, they've got some AI here. The AI kind of runs around, and if it gets within 3 meters of the player, it stabs you. And this triggers once per second. So once per second, the goblin will stab. And call apply damage on the player, so that hops over to here. The player has a callback. Every time we take damage, this happens. So if we're currently dead, we don't take any more damage. Because when you die, it screams. And so if you keep stabbing a dead body, it would go, ah! And it's really kind of annoying. Funny, but kind of annoying. Kind of bug that my daughter likes in video games. She loved Cyberpunk 2077 for that reason. So if we're dead, though, let's just turn that off. So if we're not dead, we can take damage. If we are dead, don't do anything. We will not take any damage when dead. Sometimes you want to allow that to give a corpse or something like that. But, I am just fascinated how you planned out these blueprints. There's no planning. There's no planning. These were not planned. I just kind of go. As I develop, I do a print string each time, then I grow it a little bit more in print string it, and grow it a little more in print string it. And then after I've got some sort of logical cohesion together, I'll usually slap a comment around it. And the reason for the comment is because it allows you to move, I can move everything in the comment around. And I put it like this so I could screenshot it for the IS-58 people. About how you did this with no plan. Well, I mean, you do it a little bit at a time, right? You do a little bit at a time. And so this is actually the last thing I put in, because I was getting stabbed, and he kept playing the die sound over and over again. So the goblins are just stabbing you on the ground. It's like some goblin slayer nonsense up in there. So this was actually the last thing I did. But basically, when I started off, I just printed oof, if I got stabbed, and then okay, cool, that worked. Then I printed how much damage I took, and then I will set my health to be my current health minus the how much damage, and then I print that. And so I just look at it, and as I go along, I just make sure that everything's kind of working. And then after I hit 0, then it just kept going negative. So I'm like, all right, now it's time to handle death. And so if our health is less than 0, then we come down to the dead block here. It plays the death sound, which I recorded myself. I upped the volume because I did it a little quietly. Then I originally destroyed the actor. Destroying the player is oftentimes a bad idea, because a lot of things just sort of refer to they'll do things like this, like get player 0. Player 0 doesn't work anymore, you know, and so a lot of stuff breaks. It doesn't crash. A lot of people's code, like my own game engine, would crash if you tried accessing element 0 when there was nothing left in it. Unreal Engine is better about that. If you try accessing a player that doesn't exist, it displays an error message, but it doesn't crash the server. So rather than deleting the actor, I just put the players hidden, turn them invisible. The next thing to do would be to spawn a corpse. So the player goes invisible, the corpse spawns, collapses to the ground, hopefully without noticing any transition between the two. Or you could ragdoll it, I guess. Set this variable called dead to be true, because, you know, in different places we can check to see if we're dead. Like if we're going to jump, if we're going to attack, we should probably make sure you can't attack when you're dead. I haven't done any of that. All I've done is turned off movement, and I capped the health at 0. So that if you're doing anything that scales with health, for example, a health bar that scales with health, when it goes negative, the health bar will grow the opposite way. And so it's kind of good practice that if your health ever hits 0, to set health to 0. And then you won't run into weird things like that. Or if somebody heals you and you're at negative 500 health, like they expect you to get back up, right? And you're just at negative 400 now. And they're like, but... I mean, maybe it's realistic, I don't know. But, you know, capping minimum health at 0 kind of works. If you play D&D, like, you can get negative health in some D&D systems and things like that. You can go to negative 10 before you die and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm just capping the health at 0 and setting the walk speed to 0 so you can't move anymore. So that is the damage system. So there are, because damage is so common in Unreal Engine, they built this into the engine itself. A lot of times when I teach this class, I just have... Oh, and you have to have a health variable, right? A lot of times I'll just set the health variable to be public, and then just have things modify it directly. You know. So, this is the better way of doing it. Okay. So as far as the Goblin pathfinding around, you guys know about this, right? Move to player, move to location. Move to player is not a thing. Move to actor. Do you guys know about how to make functions like that? It's probably valuable stuff to know. Do you know about this node and this node? Using the nav mesh? Okay. Okay, so if you want to make a function, what you can do is you can select some blocks or whatever, and this helps simplify your code. So like, rather than all this stuff, if I want to simplify it down, I could right click and choose collapsed function, and then all that just turns into a single function like that. Yeah. And if you double clicked on it, it takes you to the function, which it basically cuts the nodes, pastes them into this new function, and then puts a node as a placeholder here, like that. So that's kind of useful to help clean up your blueprints and stuff. Move to location. When you have a character blueprint, you can use these nodes, move to location or move to actor, and you pass in your controller, which you have a node called get AI controller on yourself when you're an AI like this. It's a little goblin thing. You just call get AI controller, and then you pass that the controller. The controller is the thing that actually moves the goblin around, and the controller uses your character movement component to figure out how fast gravity is, what kind of maximum step size it can take, how big a vertical wall could step up, how fast it should move walking, things like that. And so what you do is you just order the AI to move towards a goal. In this case, they're going to move towards the player. So the AI will path towards the player every frame. You don't have to do anything more complicated than that. If they can't see the player, then they pick a random point within 5 meters of themselves, and then they move to that. And so again, it is tasking the AI to move towards a goal. And so it's just going to find a random location within 5 meters of it. So you'll see the goblins kind of just moving around like this. And oh, there's a cool bug that I did yesterday or last time, which is I had these backwards. And so if you do that, then if they can see the player, they randomly move. But if they can't see the player, they move towards them. And it sounds like a stupid bug, but it actually is kind of a cool behavior, because it's kind of like how toddlers work. So like if they can see you, they sort of like just run off, you know. You see that, and they just sort of start randomly walking around. You know, if you're kind of nearby, they'll just kind of randomly, you know, just sort of. Oh wait, I have the radius thing turned on too. I'll have to undo these things. So if they can see you, they just sort of start wandering around randomly. But if you ever leave their line of sight like this, then they're like, wait, where did mommy go? And they'll come and they'll, oh, there she is. There she is. And then when they can see you, they'll just sort of wander off and run around a corner, stuff like that. But then if they ever lose sight of you, then they'll come investigate. Like, where did she go? Let's see. Oh, there she is. Okay. And then they'll start just randomly moving around again. It's kind of a fun bug, actually. Undo. Okay, well, I can put these back. So if we have unobstructed, let's see. If there's a wall in the way, then we do this one. If there's a hit, yeah. So if there's a wall in the way, we do this one. If there's not a wall in the way, we do that one. Okay. These guys will come up to us. Okay. Yes, sir. No, he kept dropping. So he would enroll, show up for like a week, and then drop. And he just did this every semester, and I just couldn't figure out like what changed in that week. You know, like, I mean, he knew what was in the class because he had taken it, I guess, a bunch of times. But it's like a week ago you wanted to be here, and then a week later you don't want to be here, and you know, it doesn't bother me really, but it's just kind of funny. I'm sure you can bypass the system if you want to keep enrolling. Yeah, in fact, if you guys want to just show up next semester, I teach different things every semester. So, like, you'll see that Walker pops in here, and other students as well. Mason was in here earlier. So, let's see. Okay, so let's talk about HUDs, I guess. That's probably something we can cover in 10 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to pull up my Game Jam project. It's already done. It's got Stephanie's fantastic artwork in it. Whenever it loads. There we go. Okay, so content browser's gone. Content browser. There we go. Okay, so So Steph made this artwork here, and then I used MS Paint to write a loser is you for the lost screen, and a winner is you for the victory screen. And what I did was make a HUD. And so the HUD here uses the widget system. And what I taught you guys last time in IS50A was the sort of crude way of doing HUDs. There's only 3 basic tools you have: display a picture, draw a rectangle, and draw text. And with the widget system, you can do a lot more stuff. And it's a lot more flexible with like the resolution changing and things like that. With the old HUD system, you say make a rectangle of size 50. And so you have to like check to see how big the screen is and scale it properly so that on a 4K screen your thing doesn't become microscopic. So when you build a HUD like this, first of all, let me hide this. Let's see. Visible. No. Can I hide it on the editor? Well, there we go. There's the. Oh. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm just hiding it in the editor so we can see the rest of it. So those things only appear when the game's over, right? So what you do when you use the widget-based HUD system is that you can drag a canvas out, and then you can attach things to it, like sliders and text and progress bars and images and checkboxes. Like there's actually a very nice set of things you can do. Make a button, and you just drag it on there. And then this giant sunburst looky thing here is telling you what this position is in relation to. So this means draw this button this many pixels to the right and down from the top left corner of the screen. And if I minimize this, you can see that you can choose it to be in relation to the middle of the screen, so you can have something just always be centered this way. Whereas if you wanted it to be centered in the top middle and you chose the top left as the anchor, then as your resolution changes, this thing might actually start moving around. And so the anchor is kind of important. You can have it relative to the center point of the screen if you want a crosshair or something like that. So like if you wanted a little button up at the top up here, you would put the anchor there. And so yeah, so you just drag these things onto the screen, and then they get attached to the canvas panel, and then you can do things to them, with them, into them. Okay, so there's all sorts of parameters you can change on it. So you can make an event called OnClick. So when the user clicks this button, boom, it creates, you go over to the event graph, and then there is now a onClicked. And so you can say when onClicked, print string, hello, and there you go. Now you might be wondering, like, how do you click on that? Because you don't have the mouse, right? So there's a command to hide and show the mouse in Unreal Engine. And so you can make it so like when you hit escape, the like a main menu appears, or the escape menu appears. You unlock the mouse, essentially. Then like if you've ever played a first-person shooter, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like normally the mouse is trapped, right? You don't see the mouse when you're moving around, right? It's invisible. The screen has captured the mouse. The mouse doesn't go off onto your next monitor, right? Which I was playing a game the other day that was doing that. Orcs Must Die 3. There was a bug. It normally doesn't do that, but every time I move the mouse to the right and click to fire, it was selecting things on my other monitor. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? This makes the game, like, unplayable. As long as I turned to the left every time, I could turn to the left and shoot. But if I ever turned to the right and shot, I would lose. It would minimize the game because it had it doesn't have proper windowed full screen support. So the game, it does the thing where the monitors refresh and everything, and I'm like in this time limited game with monsters killing me, and it's like, okay, now you're in YouTube again. I'm like, no, don't do that. So I was not an ambi turner. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, what you have to do is you have to enable the mouse to turn on, and then when you do that, the save view. There we go. And let's snap you up here. And so if I play the game now, it takes a while to load. You can see there's now a button there. And every time I click it, it says hello. Now once I lose control of the mouse, I can't click on it anymore, right? But you know, that's a toggleable thing you can put in blueprints. Like when you hit escape, enable the mouse again, and then when you go out of the escape menu, turn it back off. So yeah, so that's how easy it is, right? Like did you see what I did? There's the viewport. Where is viewport? Did I lose it? There, designer. Okay. So yeah, so I just dragged out a button and just said, all right, I want you to be up here in the middle part of the screen. And then every time I click on it, so I basically just had this button here, and then went down here, went OnClick, hit plus, and then that created a new node here. OnClicked button 0, and then right now it just prints hello, but you can have it do anything you want. So if you want to make a game that has, like, you know, a character builder or something like that, you can make a widget that has plus and minus buttons for like increasing your strength, decreasing your dex, whatever. And because all these things just tie right into the blueprints, like it's that easy. You just make it every time you click on something. It like accesses player 0, increases their strength, decreases their dex, increases their con, whatever. And you can build a cool little character sheet in there. And you can have images displayed. You can have images displayed like that. And there. And so what these guys do is let's see, where is it? Okay. So to see whether or not you win or lose, what it's going to do is it's going to get the player's health. So if the player's health is ever less than 0, then it will set the lost screen to be true. And if the player's health is over 0, then the lost screen is hidden. The win screen counts how many laser zombies are in the world. If the number of laser zombies are less than or equal to 0, then it shows the win screen. And if the number of laser zombies is over 0, it hides the win screen. A winner is you. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so for the new variable 0. For this one, it's going to get, let's see here. It's the player has max zombies set. That's set at when the game's launched. It counts how many zombies are in the world. So it grabs from the player how many maximum zombies there are. Then it counts how many zombies are in the world right now, and gives a fraction. And so it returns the fraction of zombies that are in the world. And this function here, get %1, is tied to. Let me play the game. You can see what it looks like. I've got 2 health bars on the screen. One is health, and the other one is progress, like how much how many laser zombies are remaining. So as I kill these zombies, you can see that the laser zombies remaining bar goes down. The zombies bit me, so my health went down a little bit too. And so these widgets are calling those functions, and those functions are returning how big the health bars should be. So let's see here. Progress bar is 0. That's the health bar. Progress bar 1. I should probably come up with better names. Progress bar 0 is the health bar. Progress bar is the progress towards winning. And all you do to do that, to make everything automatic, you don't have to do almost anything, is you just drag in a progress bar like that, put it on the screen. You can see this one is relative to the bottom right corner of the screen. This one's relative to the bottom left part of the screen. And then what you do is you bind it to a function. Okay? So I've bound the health bar to this function called get%0. So every frame it's going to call get%0, and get%0 returns something. Where are you? There. Okay. So get%0 is going to get your max health and your current health and divide them, and that's a percentage. So it's going to return a number from 0 to 1. And then so this bar here by default is at 100%. And then as that number goes down, it draws less and less health until you die. And when you die, the loss screen will show itself. Okay. So the visibility setting of the loss screen is bound to this function, get lost visibility. So every frame it checks to see, should I show myself? And as long as you have health, it doesn't show itself. As soon as your health drops to 0, this thing becomes true. A loser's view turns on. It covers the entire screen. Game's over. Win screen has the same thing. It's got a function, calls every frame, and you can just bind all of these things to functions. And so I just bound the visibility to the result of this function. So if the number of zombies in the world ever hits 0, done. You win. Okay. So that's a winning and ending. And then for the health is bound to what was it? Not the text, the progress bar. The progress bar, the size of the progress bar is bound to this function. It calculates, like I just showed you, the percentage of health you're currently at. And this progress bar, its size is bound to the number of zombies versus the maximum number of zombies. And that's it. That's literally how easy it is to make a neat little heads-up display in Unreal Engine. It's far nicer, I think, than the kind of quick and dirty way of doing it that we did last semester, where all you had were draw text, draw a rectangle, and draw a picture. With this, the health bars automatically update, and the win and losing screen automatically update. You don't really even have to think about it. So, highly recommended. You want that to be your next assignment? Just make a little heads-up display. I think that would be pretty good. Or you can, yeah, maybe. What do you think? How to connect it using blueprints? Yeah. So my face is kind of covering it, but up here you can switch back and forth between the design mode, where you can like move things around and show where these buttons go and things like that, and the blueprints mode. And these things, there's an event graph, but actually most of these things are just functions. So what happens is that every frame, the HUD calls each of these functions to see how big should my health bar be, which is this one. How big should my health bar be? How big should the victory bar be? Should I show the losing screen or not? Should I show the winning screen or not? Okay, so yeah, and then you can have this, the buttons, when you click on them, you can actually have them do things, and they're tied together with the rest of the world just by getting the main character. That's the easiest way of doing it. So maybe not the cleanest method, but basically the main character has variables for like how many zombies are in the world, which are calculated dynamically when you launch the game. So if you make more zombies, it'll count all objects of type zombie and save that as the max zombies. And so just kind of all those important things are just stored on the main character. Not maybe the cleanest design from an object-oriented standpoint, but it works. Okay. That work for you guys? Make a HUD, make a mana bar, health bar, winning screen, losing screen. That whole thing took me only an hour-ish to do, all those different functions, and putting drag and drop, bind. It's not too bad, I don't think. If you have any questions about it, just post on the Help Center. I'll help you out. So, health bar, mana bar, win condition, loss condition. Yeah. And then I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Okay. Thanks, everyone.